Yes, it is time for BS or Real Talk.
Real Talk.
Where we give you some of the quotes the players and coaches have been saying about the last couple days.
Real Talk.
You can tell us how real they're being. First up, Klay Thompson asked about KD after Game 5. This was after KD got hurt. He not only called Kevin the best player, he said Kevin could make any team a playoff team. Take a listen.
This is the best player in the world. You could put him on the 30th best team in the league, and that team will make the playoffs. That's how talented he is.
All right, I should point out, guys, that Klay said KD could make even the 30th best team a playoff team. The 30th best team this season was the New York Knicks. So really, maybe he's just projecting. I don't know. Were Klay's comments BS or Real Talk? What do you think?
Real talk.
Two real talks.
Rachel, it's real talk because I look at the New York Knicks roster, and then I go back in my time when I played with the Magic and look at some of those rosters and the teams that I took to the playoffs. Knicks are much better. So I'm going with real talk. He could do it.
See, this is why I have your scoring on my mind.
And the other thing he said was that, you know, sometimes it's very difficult to separate the person from the player.
Right.
It was the other thing he said about that, and that's real talk too. So he gets double real talk for those comments.
What about the triple real talk? What about him saying he can make any team a playoff team? Tracy says yes. You say?
Yeah, I mean, especially in the Eastern Conference, the bottom end of the Eastern Conference. I mean,
it's
with
not nice.
Absolutely.
Next, Boogie Cousins, not shy in his response to Raptors fans who cheered KD's injury. Take a listen.
Trash. So trash. But like I said, we only idolize is superstar athletes, not human beings. It's always about what we can do between those lines. That's it. That's all that ever matters. And then once we lash out and, you know, do human-type things, then we're considered bad guys.
You can hear, by the way, Boogie bringing some of his own experiences into there. And I should point out that the crowd did calm down after several of the Raptors players gave him a little rebuke there, and they were chanting KD's name as he came off the court. But still, were Boogie's comments BS or real talk?
I mean, the realest of real, unfortunately.
It's real talk, and I would say this. In a line of competition, especially with fans, players, and we're not talking about a regular season game. We're talking about a championship for a franchise, for a country that hasn't experienced anything like this. So their natural reaction, they want to win by any means necessary, right? Until they realize the significance of what happened in this situation and the players was calming them down. So I understand it, like they want to win by any means necessary, but then they came to reality, and you know, I'm not going to let a small group ruin it for everybody.
So one of the things that did happen, just to give us some context, when KD came out before the game, he was in that basket in that corner, and there was a group of fans in that basket in that corner that he was having a back and forth with, where they were booing him and cheering him even in warm-ups, which is probably
Kevin Durant was going back and forth with fans.
Well, my thing is, then he ended up getting hurt right there. That group has been already pre-charged. Not saying it was appropriate. I'm just saying that was one of the reasons why that happened.
Here's the deal. It wasn't good, right? Whether it was just a small group, big group, wasn't good. But it also is not the catastrophe of the world.
Right.
It does not mean that all people who live in the country of Canada are evil, or Ontario or Toronto. It just was a not good thing that happened for a brief period of time, and now it's over, and we should all recognize that it's not good, and you should not do that. It's just also not like, oh, my fainting couch. Like, it is what it is.
Do you have a fainting couch?
I've needed a fainting couch for this year in the NBA. I really have. All right, finally, really interesting Tom Haberstroh article, NBC, talking to a couple of the directors of performance and sort of the people who are the athletic trainers in different teams around the league about KD's injury. And they talked to him anonymously because they don't want to criticize other teams. But this is not a case. Sometimes there's an anonymous quote where like an agent's criticizing another agent and they're just trying to get a competitive advantage. Normally we see these guys support each other, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what flagged me for this, is you have someone who does this job for a different team saying, I'm really concerned about KD playing 12 of the first 14 minutes of Game 5, especially after Steve Kerr came into that telling us publicly he expected, quote, short bursts. He says, just seems unacceptable, doesn't make sense. And Tom actually quoted 3 or 4 different people who hold that position in different teams around the league saying the same thing. What do you think, Mac, of that?
I think it's real talk.
Okay.
And as a basketball player, when you miss a month Even just for tendinitis, you out for a month. When you come back, you are on a minutes restriction. I think this guy partially had a torn Achilles, and he comes back and plays 12 of the 14 minutes. That is alarming.
All right, I'm going to say BS, but I just want to be clear what I'm saying here. I'm not saying what they're saying is wrong, because I didn't agree with him playing 12 the first 14 minutes either. But there's no way that the Warriors in good conscience would have put him out there if they thought he was in danger.
Yes.
Yesterday, I heard from trainers of several teams who thought it was crazy. I heard from agents who said it was crazy for Kevin's agent to let him to play. I heard from executives who said it was crazy for the executives to let him play. I heard from coaches who said it was crazy for Steve Kerr to let him play. I don't know who's got the blame. All I know is this. It was a sports tragedy, okay? It wasn't a real-life tragedy, but it was a sports tragedy. I don't think there is anyone to blame. Kevin went out there. They tried to protect him. There were failures along, and there was also unfortunate luck. That's where I'm going to have to leave it.
The article that Tom wrote points out that maybe it was a question of them trying to keep the muscle warm. Trace, when you've tried to come back from injuries and there are restrictions on you or they try to tug you out, what do you do on the bench in the meantime to kind of
you can't do nothing. Either have a trainer massage it, keep heat on it, but that's pretty much all you can do.
This reminds me a little bit of Kyrie Irving back in 2015. He had a foot injury, and then he had a knee injury on the other side, and he went and got multiple MRIs on the knee, and it was tendonitis, and they were treating it, and then he went and he fractured his kneecap.
Right.
And the Cavs swore up and down that fractured kneecap had nothing to do with the other tendonitis. And I'm not a doctor. I didn't go to medical school. I can't have the experience. It doesn't feel that that's true. It feels like one has to do with the other, just like it feels like if you have a calf injury that it leads to an Achilles. But I can't say for sure. And so because of it, I really have a hard time in good conscience saying you were at fault. I just don't think it's fair.
By the way, that is going to be a new segment on The Jump this summer. I just want you looking into the camera saying you were at fault.